So, we had some pretty big information from the anniversary stream of Dead by Daylight yesterday. We're getting a 2v8 game mode in the summer. Looks pretty cool. We're getting a ton of quality of life updates. But the one thing that sticks out to me is the chapter and the resurgence in the game to do with this Dungeons and Dragons chapter, even for someone like me who has zero fun with Dead by Daylight right now. I literally cannot stand this game. I was gonna make this video a few days ago, and then I decided, I was like, well, I mean, the anniversary chapter's on the 14th. On my schedule, I'll put out a video on the 15th talking about it. I'll do it then. And I tried to record some footage for that video, and I could not. Dude, I could not play the game. I have zero interest. It's not fun, it's boring, it's frustrating, it's toxic in the way that you can play the game, but yet, still, I'm going to come back to Dead by Daylight to play the Dungeons and Dragons chapter because I love D&D. I'm a DM for my fiance, her brother, his girlfriend, and two of my best friends, and I love it. My story is written, don't watch this if you're a part of my group, my story is written around this character. Well, you know what, my fiance's behind me and she just heard it. Anyway, my story is written around this character, and so I'm coming back to fucking play Dead by Daylight, right? But what is the conundrum there? And did licensed chapters save Dead by Daylight? Well, let me save you about 8 to 12 minutes and go ahead and say yes. Licensed chapters absolutely saved Dead by Daylight. Let me explain. Dead by Daylight is a special game. I'm not trying to say that it didn't popularize a genre, because it did. It absolutely, in my opinion, made the asymmetrical 4v1, 8v2, 5v2, whatever, it kinda did make that popular. Shortly after that, we got the Friday the 13th game. And then we continued getting games like that for years up until the most recent, which is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. I'm not trying to take away it's a special game, I'm just saying that the game wouldn't be as popular as it is if it did not get that first licensed chapter. Because let's be honest, Dead by Daylight is admittedly, I think by the developers, written on spaghetti code. Their code base is, their code foundation, whatever you want to call it, is not the strongest in Dead by Daylight. There is a lot of balancing issues when it comes to the game, and this can be said by both sides. Whichever side you fall on, whether you're a survivor main or you're a killer main, you know that there are balance issues in Dead by Daylight, and there have been balance issues for years, but it seems like the community doesn't ignore them, but highly disregards them whenever a new licensed chapter comes out. Now don't get me wrong, thanks to the community that it has, right, thanks to what, in my opinion, the licensed chapters have built, the community is there for the original chapters. But I truly do think that if it would have just been original chapters, if they never would have gotten that first licensed chapter, I really don't think Dead by Daylight would have hit the peaks that it's hit. Because, I mean, it has millions of players from system to system. Whether you're playing on PC, Xbox, or PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, you group those all together and you have a player base with millions of players. And I don't think it could have accomplished that without that first licensed chapter. So we really get into the conundrum of why do so many people that despise the game at that current point in time come back when a licensed chapter happens? Well, that's an obvious answer, right? Dead by Daylight is one of the only games where you can boot it up and play as Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, motherfucking Vecna from D&D, Alien. Like, the amount of fan service to the horror genre of movies and even video games with Resident Evil and Silent Hill, the amount of fan service there in this game is actually insane. And it really is a history, a horror history hall of fame. As far as any type of media goes, there is no other piece of media that has the type of horror content that Dead by Daylight has, while also not really feeling like a horror game. It's a crazy conundrum. Like I said, I do not like this game right now whatsoever. I'm ADHD as hell. I will get into things for around 200 hours, 100 hours, 150 hours, depends on how frustrated I get in that amount of time. I will hyperfixate on it, I will research about it, I will watch a ton of videos, and then I will grow to hate it. And I will hate it for around 6 months to a year, and I'll come crawling back. The only game that can really be shortened in that time span, for me, is Dead by Daylight. Because the licensed chapters are so fucking crazy. They keep amping them up, adding characters that we all said would not be possible in the game. Characters like Alien, how is that going to work? Like, how could they make Alien work in Dead by Daylight? Characters like Chucky, that can never work. Chucky's way too small, you wouldn't be able to see him in the grass, the loops would be absolutely fucking broken. We're just never getting Chucky. We have Chucky. Now we have something, a character, a franchise that's not normally considered horror, but at the same time thrives in the horror genre, which is Dungeons and Dragons, and the ultimate villain from Dungeons and Dragons, in my opinion, Vecna. In this game, it's absolutely insane. It's turning into something that's not only a haven for horror nerds, it's a haven for nerds in general. And I do think, as much as I dislike Dead by Daylight right now, as much as I despise that fucking game, it's actually incredible what they've accomplished and the community that they've been able to build through these licensed chapters. As much as I can't stand the balancing decision of the devs, they built something special here, and again, it's not something they could have built without the licensed chapters, in my opinion. And I think the licensed chapters and designing those killers and those survivors, those perks, those maps, have really lent them the skills that they needed to make some of their more interesting original chapters. And I think them designing these licensed chapters and thinking, having their creativity go wild, designing them and creating them, has really lent them those skills to make their original chapters to the point where it can pull back in those licensed chapter fans of Dead by Daylight. I tend to be one of Dead by Daylight's biggest haters, but I cannot ignore the hype that they build around these licensed chapters because of the wild characters they're able to get, right? Like, Vecna from Dungeons and Dragons blows my fucking mind. And that's not even it, dude. In the same stream that we got the trailer for the Dungeons and Dragons chapter, I have a nose thing going on, so I'm gonna start saying D&D. The D&D chapter, at the end of the stream, we got the trailer for the Castlevania chapter that's coming out. It's insane. It's insane. I'm usually DBD's #1 hater, especially when it comes to gameplay, but what they've been able to do with licensed chapters and building a community of horror nerds, a safe haven for horror nerds, it's actually fucking impressive, to be completely honest. And due to that hype, Dead by Daylight yesterday hit a peak amount of players it hasn't seen in a couple of months. It didn't quite beat that peak, but it obviously will when this Vecna, this D&D chapter, actually fully releases. I absolutely expect it to hit that peak. Not everybody wants to play the PTB. Also, I feel the need to add a little interjection here. I actually recorded this video before I got my gameplay footage on the PTB. Let me just add this in here real quick because I think it's very apt because of how well they design their license chapters on most instances. Vecna is fucking awesome, dude. The perks for the survivors are so fucking cool. Like, this chapter is insanely well made. Like, this is awesome. This is probably one of their best chapters to date, and I keep saying that, and I hear people keep saying that when it comes to these licensed chapters. So, sorry if this seems a little out of place in the video. That's because it is. I recorded it almost 4 hours later. My B. Enjoy the rest. But to fully answer the question, did licensed chapters save Dead by Daylight? Yeah, of course they did. In my opinion, it saved Dead by Daylight from being this niche game in a niche genre that ultimately ended up being forgotten about a couple of years down the line. But thanks to licensed chapters, it has soared Dead by Daylight. They have soared this game into mainstream popularity, making a niche genre extremely popular, spawning copycats and other licensed games like Friday the 13th and Texas the Chainsaw Massacre to pretty much be what Dead by Daylight is with some small variations. So, yeah, licensed chapters saved Dead by Daylight, and it made it, I mean, probably a little bit more popular than sliced bread, to be completely honest. My only hope for Dead by Daylight in the future, with all of these quality of life updates, is that the devs actually really start to take a hard look at balance, start listening to their more popular, dedicated to statistics content creators, Oxdarva. They start listening to them, and they start actually implementing changes that would be overall healthier for the game in general, instead of healthier for one side or another, whether that be killer or survivor. The devs seem to take the stance of one against the other, which technically that's what the game is, but we're one community, and we want a video game that doesn't pit us at each other's throats in any other way than in the gameplay. That's just my opinion. I would love to hear your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Do you think that my theory on the popularity of Dead by Daylight and whether it became a popular game or not thanks to this specific thing, do you think that I'm right, or do you think it could have soared to these heights on its own? Let me know in the comments down below. That's going to do it for me, dudes. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Toot, and I've been your host, and we'll see you dudes next time. Peace out.